What's up, guys? We're back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. So for today's episode, as you can see, it's a little bit longer. I got a little carried away reading. So no bonus today, letting you know that straight up. This is all malicious compliance stories. Also, I've had some of you ask if I was gonna make a Discord server for a while now, and well, 10k seems like a pretty good place to finally make one. So, link is in the description below, and I'll also put it in the comment section if you want to come hang out. Anyways, let's get on to the stories. See you in a bit. I charged you too much? My friend, you have no idea. I used to be a bartender / manager at a small family owner restaurant. We had this one customer who I'll call D. It's short for douchebag. Anyways, he used to be a really nice guy, always fun to talk to, had interesting stories, the works. However, after about 8 months of him being a regular, he asked me out. I very politely and kindly turned him down. And my God, you would have thought I threatened his mom with the way he reacted. So following that point, he turned into a huge douchebag, always snapping at me, both literally and figuratively, complaining about food that he never had an issue with before, etc. A couple months later, we had some changes to our menu, and some slight price changes. Notably, his favorite soup, elk chili, was 75 cents more. He stormed in and sat down and ordered elk chili. I said, "Of course. I just want to make sure you're aware of the He snapped at me and said, "How dumb do you think I am? I can read." Okay, my dude, whatever you say. So, he gets his soup, his meal, a few beers, and a glass of one of our higher quality bourbons. I bring him the check and he flips out. "This is more than it was before. You never told me it would be more. This is fraud. I'm not paying this. Fix it." Okay, I can do that. However, on the check, I had also charged him for only happy hour price beers, which was significantly less than our regular prices. Happy hour ended before he even got there. I also charged him for a lower quality bourbon by the same company. Please note, the owner was okay with that since he was technically a regular and had spent a lot of money there. So, I fixed his check for him, but I fixed all of it. The new check was about $15 more than it was before. He was so mad he was lost for words, and I took that time to show him how I fixed his check. He never came back on nights I was working after that. I don't work there anymore. I wonder how he's doing. You told us to. This story is about compliance, and I definitely felt malicious when it happened. Whether or not it is malicious is up to the reader. TLDR at the bottom. I work for a company that provides people who work in food service roles to other businesses. Basically, if, for example, McDonald's does not want to hire people to work for them directly, then they would hire my company to bring in to work in McDonald's. This way, the people are on my company's payroll and not McDonald's. My company has me and my supervisor working inside a small convenience store-like area in a college campus. We have coffee, ready-made sandwiches that are delivered to us every day, and even soup available to the students. Now for our area, we get the same kids coming in every day, since we're the only food source besides a vending machine within walking distance. So my supervisor and I quickly figure out how much the kids will eat of what and make our order accordingly. Of course, there is some fluctuation in what is consumed, but we are fairly accurate on ordering, so there's not much food waste. One day, the director, who is our manager's boss, decides that we don't have enough sandwiches in our fridge for the kids to eat. He was the one who told us before to try and keep wasted sandwiches, ones the kids didn't buy before they expired, as low as possible. Now, he tells my supervisor to double the amount of sandwiches ordered so the shelves look full so we can sell more. We try to tell them that by doing so, the amount of sandwiches that will expire and therefore be wasted will dramatically increase, which means that we will be losing more money. He tells us to do it anyways and that it will be fine. So my supervisor shrugs her shoulders and does it. In the next few days, the increased amount of food starts showing up and the fridge is full. We stuff it more full than a pickle jar, and we still have extra left over. So all we can do is put the extra in the back fridge that we use to store extra drinks and food that have to stay refrigerated. Despite assurance that it'll be fine, all was not. The extra food piled up quickly, and due to the way the sandwiches are made, we're not allowed to keep them longer than 2 days. Food waste soars as the kids, despite having a full fridge of sandwiches to choose from, in fact, did not buy all that food. Any extra that may have been bought did not offset the money wasted from the expired food. Usually, when we ordered food, there was no more than 10 sandwiches left over by the end of the day. Those left over would be bought usually before the next day's shipment came in, so we had normally very little that expired on us. Due to the increase of sandwiches, we're now dealing with close to 20 to 30 expired sandwiches a day. This went on for 2 weeks. The next time the director showed up, he had his boss, the head director, with him, along with other people high up in the corporate chain. They showed up when I was working alone, and it seemed the director was giving the other higher-ups a tour of the area, since he didn't even acknowledge that I was there. This didn't bother me, since I know the ways of higher-ups, and when they're discussing business, counter monkeys like me are less than invisible. I don't really care for this director, since he's too hands-on, and acts like only he knows what he is doing, while giving out orders that tend to contradict other orders he has given. Yet, when we tried to communicate with him about rules or concerns, it is a one-way street. He also tends to make promises that never happen, which ticks off a lot of people under him. So, as he's talking to the higher-ups, he suddenly calls out to me, "Hey, redacted, why do you have so many sandwiches left over and wasted from the last 2 weeks?" Knowing that things would end up bad for me later if I outright threw him under the bus with the bosses present, I decided to try and be tactful and give him a chance to change the subject. "We were told to double up on the sandwich order, sir," I respectfully say. The other bosses stopped talking and are paying attention to our conversation now. The director puts his hands on his hips and leveled a squint at me. "Well, who told you to do that?" he demanded in a huff while puffing up his chest like a banty rooster. Without batting an eye, I answer him like the good little employee that I am, and without any maliciousness at all. "You told us to." His eyes widen, and he repeats back questionably, I told you to?" Nodding, I chirp back, "Yes sir, 2 weeks ago." He sputters for a bit and hastily leads the bosses to another area under his control. When I knew they were gone, I let myself have a good laugh. I savored the fact that he did this to himself in front of his bosses. And first chance I got, I told my supervisor. She also had a hearty laugh over it. Within the next couple of days, we were allowed to order sandwiches the way we normally did. Less ice? If you say so. I'm a barista at a small coffee shop, and we do blended drinks. Basically, just pick a drink off the menu and add the word frozen to it, and we'll pour it over ice and then blend it. And it takes a decent amount of ice, since you're going for the blended slushy texture. It doesn't affect the taste, unless you let the drink melt and get all watered down. I get to work, and this woman is already at the register, while my coworker tells her it'll be a minute, because she's in the middle of a drink. I walk behind the counter to go to the office to drop off my stuff and clock on. And this woman sees me and immediately starts saying, Hey, can I order?" I say it'll be a minute, as I'm carrying my bag and my coat, obviously not in a position to be making drinks. My coworker tells her again that she'll be with her in a second, as soon as she's finished with the drink she's making first. I drop off my stuff and venture out to the tills to clock on, and the woman again starts talking to me and rattling off questions when I haven't even clocked in yet, and was clocking in early just so she wouldn't have to wait for my coworker to finish up. The conversation goes as follows. Her: "Do you have any blended drinks?" Me: "Oh yeah, it's..." Her: "You know, blended, like with ice and blended together?" Me: "Yes, as I was saying, we do. It's our frozen drinks on the..." Her: blended drinks. They're called frappes. Ever heard of them? Is what I imagine she was saying in her head. Me, tired of her cutting me off every time I try to explain, and finally able to get her to stop talking. Yes we do. Our frozen drinks. Her, how are those made? Which was a stupid question, since she was just over-explaining a blended drink to me, and cutting me off when I tried to point out the options on the menu. Me, just like a normal drink base, then we fill it with ice and blend it. Her, large blended latte, light ice. I don't take the light ice comment too seriously, since any blended drink relies on a full cup of ice to give it the blended texture. I just figure I'll level the ice in the cup, rather than heap a mound over the top. She pays and steps back, and I pour ice onto the cup, all the way to the brim, which is less than we normally do for blended drinks. The customer practically hops over the counter and screams, "Excuse me, I said light ice." I turn to her with a look on my face and explain that this is less ice, because normally for blended drinks, we use way more, and if I use less ice than I had, the drink would have just been iced latte with ice dust in it. Her, not even listening to me or comprehending what I said. Less ice. I smile and say, "Okay," and pour out most of the ice until it only fills a third of the cup. Let me reiterate again. We normally use a cup and a half of ice for blended drinks to give it that blended texture, which is the extra point of ordering a blended drink. I was using less than a third of ice I was supposed to put in for a normal serving. I fill her cup with milk and the espresso shots and pour the mixture into the blender. I watch as the blender just chops up the total of 5 ice cubes until it's just ice dust, which melts right into the espresso, and out the blender comes a very frothy, no ice to be seen, cold, but not that cold, latte. I pour the iceless drink into a plastic cup and slide it out onto the bar. "Frozen latte with less ice," I call out, and watch as the woman looks up from her phone to see the cold, iceless latte on the counter, with me smiling at her. She looks like she's confused at the drink's texture, and almost as if she's going to say something, until I say, "I hope there wasn't too much ice in there. I took out most of it, like you asked." She takes the drink and leaves. Enjoy your frothy, watery, not that cold because there wasn't enough ice, latte. Want what you paid for? You get what you paid for. Here's a tale of corporate revenge. I was just a witness to this, but I hope you'll get a kick out of it as much as I did. A couple years ago, our company signed on with a new corporate client, Blue Corp. Blue Corp wanted a monthly report about their industry with several custom features. We agreed on a price based on other similar projects we'd done in the past. Our final price for Blue Corp was Blue Corp reports, 20 pages, $10,000 a month. Red Corp reports, as above, free of charge. Red Corp was another company recently bought by Blue Corp. There was a bit of work involved in adapting the reports for them, some extra research and changing texts and the graphs in the report. But since it was a big contract, my boss decided that it would be more attractive to offer it for free. The overall price was very low because it was a big client and we were hoping to get more work from them. Sure enough, Blue Corp liked our prices and we started working on their reports. Fast forward several months and Blue Corp has become a nightmare. They're our worst client. They keep demanding changes or wanting additions to the reports. Nothing is ever good enough for them. The report has ballooned to over 60 pages now, with a lot of extra content that we hadn't budgeted for, and that Blue Corp isn't paying for. My boss doesn't like this. We're losing money from this project because we have to spend so many days every month working on Blue Corp's report. But she doesn't want to fire them because they're our biggest client. A small consolation is that although Blue Corp keeps requesting more from us, they forgot about the Red Corp reports. It appears that Red Corp is using the Blue Corp reports internally, since the contents are 99% the same. So we decide that until Blue Corp asks, we'll not waste our time providing them with the Red Corp reports. Unfortunately, at some point, one of the Blue Corp a-holes comes back to ask for the Red Corp reports. But not only that, Blue Corp has just bought yet another company, White Corp. So they want a report for White Corp too, free of charge, as per your price quote. My boss thinks about it for a while. It was an email exchange, and then replies, our original quote said free of charge for a 20-page report for one brand, Red Corp. Since the project has now grown to over 60 pages, and there are two brands, Red Corp and White Corp, we'll have to charge you an extra $500 a month to cover the cost of the additional two reports. Keep in mind, this was a really low price given the additional work that would go into the extra reports. And it is chump change for a big corp that was spending $10,000 a month on this service. Blue Corp, however, does not like that one bit, and one of their managers calls my boss to complain. You have just slapped a different logo on the front. You're trying to screw us over. Check our written agreement again. It's free of charge to do one, so it should be free of charge to do two. At this point, my boss is livid. So she decides that we're going to do exactly as they asked. We're almost finished with the June 2018 report. Boss takes the report, goes through the original price quote, and removes all the extra sections that were given to Blue Corp for free. She whittled down that report from 60 pages to the original 20. Then she slapped the Red Corp and White Corp logos on it, made two different versions, and emailed the files to Blue Corp. Unfortunately, I wasn't a witness to the chaos that ensued. The Blue Corp people went ballistic, calling my boss and threatening to cancel our contract. We had other projects for you, but you're being so unprofessional. Give us the report now. We're in the middle of a very important meeting and with very important people, and we need the data, etc., etc. My boss. Yes, you see, you told us that the Red Corp and White Corp reports had to be free, as per price quote. So we went back and reread the quote. It turns out that we were providing much additional content that wasn't originally in the price quote. This month, we had delivered exactly what we agreed and you paid for, including the R and W reports free of charge. If you want to make additions to the report, we can discuss it and agree on a price. Blue Corp guy, you're out of your mind. You haven't heard the last of this. A few days later, my boss gets a call from a Blue Corp bigwig who wants to apologize for this misunderstanding with his underling and politely asks for the extra content that they need. They negotiate a suitable, very substantial price increase for all the additions they want. We deliver them the 60-page report they want, and we have dealt with a different manager since then. Happy end, kinda, because we're still working with them, but they're still our worst client and a monthly pain in the butt. My boss still wishes she could fire them, but they are our biggest client. But she said something that I think is very true. We thought we would entice them with freebies to show them our reports are valuable, so they would give us more money. Instead, they saw we were giving them away for free and decided they were not worth paying for. It's not worth it to give things for free to some people. Isn't that the truth? TLDR, client asks for more and more free things. We try to increase the price a little to cover the costs. Client refuses. So, we stop providing free things until they pay for all the additional content. Marge Simpson hair complies with all boys middle school uniform code. Hi, this story is from a quarter century ago, but still hilarious. Background: my Catholic middle school in Mexico City reflected the demographics of Mexico City. 1,200 boys, 10% white, 20% native, 70% mestizo, and me being the single black bean in the cafe au lait rice. The school had a peculiar uniform code, where we attended in a formal uniform Mondays and special events, and in civvies Tuesday through Friday, except for having weekly PE on a civvies day and having to be wearing sportswear. But every day, our hair had to be presentable, including, on the sides, the hair must not cover the students' ears, Behind the head, the hair must not fall below the natural growth line. In front, the hair must not cover the forehead, and if pulled down, it must not be long enough to go below the eyebrows. Had to always be combed, brushed, and or gelled. No uneven shaven hair. Basically no punk looks. The story. Between me being a total nerd, an introvert, sucking at non-cycling sports, being a member of the library lunch club, and having applied for and been accepted into the ultra dorky 30-boy school chamber choir, I was completely like a lemniscate-shaped peg, trying to choose between a square and round holes. I eventually gave up trying to fit in and begun seeking manners to stick out. I soon became the only student to attend school by bicycle. I bought trench coats, heavy boots, fanny packs, and expedition backpacks. I discovered anime and cosplay, and eventually, I believe I was watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something, saw a dude with a cylindrical afro, and thought that would fit the rules, wouldn't it? I thus began letting my hair grow on top. It begun rather tame, just a noticeable cylindrical shape, but between my hairdresser getting practice and me never failing a hair length test, plus me spending a good 2 or 3 minutes per hour combing it up, I eventually let it grow until I could hide a standing crayon on the crown of my head. My only regret was the no punk look rule, forcing me to keep something of a cushion on the sides and back. Still, half the school hated me for having and milking my personal loophole. But I was a total social urchin and bully magnet, and was glad to fight back in such a blatant fashion. I eventually moved on to high school, where there was no uniform at all, and nobody was checking hair. But I discovered that letting it grow further up was just forcing me to comb it so much more. And then I turned 18, and had to do my mandatory military service. Thus, I had to actually chop it down. And, being I just moved to Cancun, I discovered that my vertical hairdo was as unpleasant as wearing a wool cap in this hellish heat, and gave up on it. But my memories remain. Alright guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, consider subscribing. It really does help out this channel. With that, I will see you in the next one. Peace out.